Welcome to Saxon Math Lesson 31. Our learning target for today is to be able to solve word problems about comparing. Now these are not some more, or some went away problems. These are just comparing two numbers in word problem form. So if you're following along in our Saxon Math book, I am on page 136. And if you're watching this video, then you probably will want to take some notes about how to solve these sorts of problems. So let's look at our first example right here. Example number 1. It says 42 apples is how many more than 13 apples? Now stop for just a moment and let's do some real reading. First of all, I want to highlight this very important phrase, how many more? How many more is a subtraction pattern. Those three words are like a clue to you that in order to solve this problem, you're going to have to use a subtraction pattern. So now we're going to go back and look at the information that's given us. This clue in yellow tells us we're going to subtract. How many more means subtraction. Now let's look at the information. We have 42 apples. Notice it is written in word format. 42, so make sure you read it carefully. Sometimes people will read this and say 52 or 14, and then you're guaranteed to get the problem wrong. So you have to do careful, real reading. 42 apples, and we're going to compare it to 13 apples. Notice here they wrote it in digit form, and the label will be apples. So we're going to write our pattern by writing the larger number first, 42 apples, subtracting the smaller number, 13. And 42 apples minus 13 is the equation. Remember the other day we learned to solve problems by writing an equation. And an equation, we said, is just a number sentence that uses the equal sign to show that quantities are equal. So if I have 42 and I want to subtract 13 from it, notice I'm also going to have to use regrouping, because here I have 2 and I want to subtract 3. Look here, if you have 2 boxes, you can't take away 3 because here's 1, here's 2, but you're still missing 1. You want to take away 3. So in order to solve this problem, I have to use regrouping. And regrouping is when you take a number from one place value and borrow it or carry it to the next. So I'm going to borrow a set of tens from the tens column. And so this 4 will become a 3. And now I have an extra set of 10 I can put over here. And 10 plus 2 becomes 12. And 12 minus 3 is 9. And 3 minus 1 is 2. So the answer is 29 apples. 42 apples is 29 apples more than 13 apples. So I've compared the amounts 42 to 13 by writing a subtraction pattern. So remember, how many more? Say that to yourself. I'll wait. Very good. How many more is a subtraction pattern? Let's look at another example at the top of page 138. Here's our second example. 17 apples is how many fewer than 63 apples? Okay, let's do some real reading. First of all, we know what two numbers are we going to compare. 17 apples, written in word form, there's digit form, and we're comparing that to 63 apples, and apples will be our label. Let's highlight this important phrase here. On the previous page, we saw that how many more was a subtraction pattern. But here's another clue phrase, how many fewer. How many fewer is also a subtraction pattern. So you're just going to have to learn to look for these clues. How many fewer means you're going to subtract. And always in subtraction, the larger number must be on top. It must be written first. So notice what they did. They were very tricky. They wrote the smaller number first in the problem, and the larger number is written last. A lot of people, all they do, they don't stop and think. They don't use real reading. They just see this 17 written at the beginning of the sentence, and they write 17 minus 63. And that's their equation, but they don't stop to think that this, the larger number always must be on top in a subtraction pattern. So that can never work. And then they get it wrong and they're like, well, I wrote an equation. Well, yeah, you did write an equation, but you have to stop and think which number is larger. Is 17 larger or is 63 larger? It's 63. So 63 must be written first. The larger number always must be written first in a subtraction problem. It's not like the commutative property where it doesn't matter about the order. In subtraction, the order matters big time. Then you put your subtraction symbol and you're going to subtract the smaller number, 17. And once again, I'm going to look here and say, oh, I have 3 minus 7. Wait, I can't do that. 7 is bigger than 3. I'm going to have to regroup from the 6 and borrow 1, leaving a 5. Now I have 13 minus 7 is 6, and 5 minus 1 is 4. So 17 apples is 46 apples fewer than 63 apples. So how many fewer is another phrase you're going to have to remember. That means you're going to be writing a subtraction equation. Let's look at one more example right here. Example number 3. Let's do some real reading. 17 is how much less than 42? Okay, there's a third phrase to indicate a subtraction pattern. How much less? So what did we learn here? Well, we learned how much less is also a subtraction pattern. And then they have the numbers 17, again written in word form, and we're comparing that to 42. Notice which is bigger, 17 or 42? That's right. 42 is the larger number, and look where they put it again, trying to trick you by putting it at the end of the question. Don't let them trick you by doing that. Stop and think. Which number is bigger? 42. So you're going to write that first. Write the bigger number first. Subtract, because this is a subtraction pattern. 17. And once again, we have to regroup because 2 minus 7 cannot be done. We have to borrow. That becomes a 3. 12 minus 7 is 5. 3 minus 1 is 2. So 17 is 25 less than 42. And there's no label here because they're just comparing numbers, not objects. So let's review the 3 phrases that indicate a subtraction pattern. What I want you to remember is how much less is a subtraction pattern. The phrase how many fewer is a subtraction pattern. And from the previous page, we had the phrase how many, do you remember what it was? How many more? That's a subtraction pattern. So if you see those phrases, you're going to be writing a subtraction equation. The second thing I want you to remember, don't just write the first number in the problem. A lot of times the first number in the problem is the smaller number. And the smaller number in a subtraction equation goes after the larger number. If you can remember those things, then I'm sure you'll be very successful with today's learning target. Remember, quitters never learn and learners never quit. So persevere until you've achieved your goal.